Kennedy Airport, set for a move up the Hudson River to the west side of Manhattan.
Well, Fox News Channel's America's Election headquarters and taking a look at a pretty ugly report on the American jobs market Friday, showing unemployment up to 8.2% in May. President Obama attacking Governor Mitt Romney's career as a private venture capitalist, and now some analysts say it's time for him to act instead of attack. This, as a new poll shows, nearly 2/3 of voters think neither candidate is the best for their party. 2/3. Ron Bonjean, former communications director for Speaker Dennis Hastert, and Chris Kofinas, former chief of staff for Senator Joe Manchin. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Let's all take a look at that poll, because it's fascinating to me that so many people, we may not be late in the game, but we're pretty darn close to November. 64% think there are better possibilities for both parties. Ron, what do you think?
Well, I think that's because people want to hear the details about how each candidate is going to grow jobs and grow the economy. Yesterday was a devastating day for President Obama, not just because of the unemployment numbers, but because former President Bill Clinton said, look, Mitt Romney has a sterling business record. Let's stop attacking Bain Capital and let's start talking about the issues. And that's what the people want to hear. They want to hear, okay, what are your plans, so they can scrutinize them, so they can, when they go to the polls in November, they can say, okay, Mitt Romney's better, maybe better than Obama, or maybe Obama's better than Romney. I, of course, think Romney will be better because we've seen a lot from President Obama about what he has to offer, and it hasn't worked.
Chris, what do you make of former President Clinton's remarks, and do you think President Obama has been as forthcoming as he needs to be in terms of either continuing the strategy we have so far or going in a new direction when it comes to creating jobs?
Well, in terms of the first question, dealing with surrogates is, as anyone who's ever done a campaign knows, it's probably the most difficult thing. You know, President Clinton has his view and perspective. I respect that, and I think the Obama campaign does as well. In terms of the tactics and strategy, listen, the American people fully well and understand that the president inherited a terrible fiscal mess. When you go from losing millions of jobs to creating 4 million jobs, that's a pretty good turnaround. Now, is it enough to satisfy a lot of the American people? Probably not. There's still a lot more work to be done. And I think the challenge for the Obama campaign kind of going forward is you do want to do the attack because you need to basically define your opponent and what their policies are, in case of Governor Romney, lack of policies. But you also need to kind of present your own positive vision about where you're going to take the country for the next 4 years.
But, Ron, only 19% of those polled in that poll say they like the candidate on either side. 19%. Where do you see that number going? And do you think that the candidates will benefit from a finger-pointing, blaming strategy, whether they blame the last administration or each other's ideas?
Well, I think people are just simply fed up with what's going on in the country. They're seeing dismal job numbers, and they've had it. So they want to start seeing and hearing plans. What are the candidates going to sell? I think they've heard a lot from President Obama, what he would like to do. We know that he wants to spend more. We know he wants to tax more. I think they haven't gotten to know Mitt Romney just yet. They will over the next few months, and voters are really going to start paying attention to this after the summer, towards the conventions, when you go into the fall. Those last 3 months, especially those debates, will really give voters a choice.
Well, what about right now, though, Ron? Let me ask you this and then let Chris respond.
Sure.
Governor Romney, if Bain Capital is not the issue, what are his plans for creating jobs? What have we seen in his track record, let's say in his home state, that might apply in the White House?
Well, here's what's interesting is that Bain Capital was the attack point that President Obama kept using, which wasn't working. What Mitt Romney wants to do, and he's put out a 5-point plan and the 5 bills he would introduce in Congress and 5 executive orders that he would do, which would lower taxes, which would lower spending, which would create more energy, which would invest more into trade. And he does have a track record of creating jobs. And you know what? You have to talk about Bain Capital that way. I mean, he helped create Staples, which hires thousands of people.
So, Chris, If that is the case and Governor Romney goes that route of touting the successes involving Bain and his other policies to date, how should President Obama respond in his reelection campaign? More blame and finger pointing, or saying Congress needs to get on it? Or should he just tout his success as he sees it?
Well, I mean, listen, when it comes to Governor Romney, Staples or, running Staples is not like running the federal government. And being the head of a private equity firm is not like being the President of the United States. Those are completely two different roles.
But President Obama did walk into that position without ever running a country.
Yeah, but what I would say is the most important qualification is, where do you want to take the country? And I think the biggest weakness, if you will, that Governor Romney has is that his policies are basically a bad example of all the failed policies that Republicans have tried to implement before. So I think, in terms of your question, I think the reality is, for President Obama, he's got to make that contrast. But at the same time, he's got to go out there and say where he's going to take the country over the next 4 years in terms of making sure that we're taking care of the middle class.
All right, I have to leave it there, but it sounds like both of you want your candidate to be more forthcoming with what their plans are. We're all ears. Thanks so much, gentlemen. Great to see you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Now to a more personal look in the race for the White House. Earlier this week, our own Bill Hemmer got a chance to sit down with Governor Romney and his wife Ann, both of them opening up about their relationship, talking about things you don't normally hear them talk about on the campaign trail. Here now is part of Bill Hemmer's exclusive interview with Governor and